Durant cette série d'émissions, nous tenterons de comprendre et d'étudier l'histoire pour comprendre pourquoi ces deux nations sœurs ont perdu le contact suite aux manipulations causées et faites par les représentants de la couronne britannique. Nous retournons loin dans l'histoire, mais puisque nous devons savoir d'où nous venons, pour savoir où nous allons, ceci est une bonne discussion à avoir. Pour commencer cette émission, je vais inviter Stuart Mayou à nous faire présentation en bonne et due forme. Par la suite, nous aurons une prière traditionnelle avant de se lancer dans les discussions. Bonne écoute, voici un Mohawk pour l'indépendance du Québec sur radio-infocité.com. Si vous avez des commentaires au cours de cette émission, vous pouvez les faire par écrit, simplement en écrivant à notre adresse de courriel studio@radioinfocité.com ou sur notre page Facebook de Radio Infocité. Prenez note que cette émission a été faite en anglais pour permettre à M. Stuart Mayou de mieux s'exprimer. Et elle a été traduite simultanément. Bonne écoute.
For thousands of years, the Ganyangahaga, Mohawk, have lived under the great law of peace within the St. Lawrence Valley.
Pendant des milliers d'années, les Ganyangahaga, les Mohawks, ont habité en paix dans la vallée du Saint-Laurent.
500 years ago, we encountered a new people
Et il y a 500 ans, on a rencontré un nouveau peuple
that changed the relationship between the people and the land.
qui a changé les relations entre les gens et avec la terre.
From the plains of Abraham
Des plaines d'Abraham
to the Oka crisis of 1990,
jusqu'à la crise d'Oka de 1990,
to the modern-day relationship between the Quebecois and the Ganyangahaga.
jusqu'à l'ère moderne de la relation entre les Québécois et les Ganyangahaga.
We will examine the things that have divided us,
On va examiner les choses qui nous ont divisés
the things that we have in common,
et les choses qu'on a en commun.
our historical relationship,
Notre relation historique
and where we will go together in the future.
et où qu'on s'en va ensemble dans le futur.
Join us in our journey back to our integrity.
Joignez-vous à nous dans notre retour à notre intégrité. Bonjour la création, mon nom c'est Edith, fille de Socorro Castellan et petite fille qui portait en vie le nom de Francisca Rueda, de la nation Zapotèque et née au territoire Mexica, sous la protection du clan Zulu, du conseil traditionnel Ganyangahaga de la Confédération des 5 nations à Kahnawake, la Maison Longue. Wegwe, yunki adizu, wegwe, unwe. Edith Yujets, está Socorro Castellan, Axota Yundajisque Francisca Rueda, Zapotec New Honsage, Mexica Onawaragi. Yunata Huni Yunkina Stadista and Toharage Ganosesne, Radianga Haga Garnawager, West New Honsage Onawarage Gawehnoge. Nous remercions la femme ciel qui nous donne notre esprit, nous remercions notre grand-mère lune qui nous donne notre sang, et notre mère terre qui nous donne notre corps, et à toutes les femmes, de la toute petite nouvelle-née jusqu'à la plus aînée, parce qu'elles sont toutes les mères de nos nations. Nous remercions toutes les médecines, toutes les eaux, les arbres, les oiseaux, les animaux. On remercie tout ce qui nous donne vie. On fait appel au véritable esprit de la Gayanara Saragoa, la grande loi de la paix, et du Wampum à du voix. Et on fait appel à nos ancêtres afin qu'ils nous aident à rétablir ces relations harmonieuses, en équilibre, en bonne pensée et en bon esprit. Et tout ce qui est pas là pour cette bonne pensée, que ça soit repoussé dans les 3 niveaux de l'existence. Dinitinuwarado garunwa garunyahgaso, dana yankisota santana kagarakwa, dana yankinista yuhonsaga dana agwagoskat negunungwe. Dinitinuwarado tarunyawago dano sa wiskara, tini ganya taragero, agwago ununkwa su'a. Aguira su'a, asinawa su'a, gatsa su'a, asitanagu a dano agwe kontirillo. Ayun kia tagen hadandawa ron hetserane gayanarasara goa dano degani de yohade. Asani gatdarage ne ganyanga haga dano agweni honsage yarinyato yonata hiuni dano yodiskarawage. Ayun kia tagen hadandawa ron hetserane orehuyo. Ganigorillo dano gayandawana dano nogatana yodaksa. Eresawet, eresawet, eresawet. Daganina yota sawanikura.
Nous vous présentons aujourd'hui le 3e épisode de la nouvelle série web radio-télé de Radio Info Cité, un Mohawk pour l'indépendance du Québec. Ce 3e épisode
Wegwe, yunki adizu, wegwe, unwe. Edith Yujets, está Socorro Castellan, Axota Yundajisque Francisca Rueda, Zapotec New Honsage, Mexica Onawaragi. Yunata Huni Yunkina Stadista and Toharage Ganosesne, Radianga Haga Garnawager, West New Honsage Onawarage Gawehnoge. Dinitinuwarado garunwa garunyahgaso, dano yankisota santana kagarakwa, dano yankinista yuhonsage dana agwagoskat negunungwe. Dinitinuwarado tarunyawago dano sa wiskara, tini ganya taragero, agwago ununkwa su'a. Aguira su'a, asinawa su'a, gatsa su'a, asitanagu a dano agwe kontirillo. Ayun kia tagen hadandawa ron hetserane gayanarasara goa dano degani de yohade. Asani gatdarage ne ganyanga haga, dano agweni honsage, yarinyato yonata hiuni dano yodiskarawage. Ayun kia tagen hadandawa ron hetserane orehuyo, ganigorillo dano gayandawana dano nogatana yodaksa. Eresawet, eresawet, eresawet. Daganina yota sawanikura. Bonjour la création, mon nom c'est Edith, fille de Socorro Castellan et petite fille qui portait en vie le nom de Francisca Rueda, de la nation Zapotec et née au territoire Mexica, sous la protection du clan Zulu, du conseil traditionnel Gayangahaga de la Confédération des 5 nations à Ganawage et la Maison Longue. Nous remercions la femme ciel qui nous donne notre esprit, nous remercions notre grand-mère lune qui nous donne notre sang, et notre mère terre qui nous donne notre corps, et à toutes les femmes, de la toute petite nouvelle-née jusqu'à la plus aînée, parce qu'elles sont toutes les mères de nos nations. Nous remercions toutes les médecines, toutes les eaux, les arbres, les oiseaux, les animaux. On remercie tout ce qui nous donne vie. On fait appel au véritable esprit de la Gayanara Saragoa, la grande loi de la paix, et du Wampum à du voix. Et on fait appel à nos ancêtres afin qu'ils nous aident à rétablir ces relations harmonieuses, en équilibre, en bonne pensée et en bon esprit. Et tout ce qui est pas là pour cette bonne pensée, que ça soit repoussé dans les 3 niveaux de l'existence.
In this 3rd episode, we will talk about the modern relation between the Québécois and the Mohawk Nation.
Well, there is something very interesting concerning the modern relation between the two nations, but we have to start from the geopolitics. As I said before in the former program, the geography of Quebec, it's two competing valleys. The St. Lawrence Valley, where the Québécois lives, and the Mohawk Valley, where lives the Iroquois. We both meet around Lake Ontario, Lake Erie. That's where, and Montreal, of course. The Iroquois always lived at the juncture of both valleys, and as a consequence, today, because of the American Revolution, the border passes through the land of the Mohawks, which means that the Iroquois have, for example, Kahnawake or Akwesasne, I don't remember. But anyway, there is a reserve which is separated between Quebec, Ontario, and USA. Akwesasne, that's what I thought. Okay, and as a result, this is a hole in the borders. And it opens the gate to contraband, for terrorists to get into USA, to sell cigarettes or things like that, drugs or even weapons. And this is a problem for the three entities or the two countries. USA are very afraid because Canada is a naive country. They let terrorists create cells in Montreal, for example. The Americans are afraid that... Let me finish. I know what you will say.
One thing before you go too far.
Go on.
You said the border running through our community creates contraband and terrorists wanting to go into the USA. That's not entirely true, but just to say that all the terrorists are already in the USA.
Yeah, of course. But what I say, is the guy who wanted to put a bomb in 2000 in Los Angeles came from Montreal. The thing is, I'm talking about the white perception, and it's not only perception, it's reality. The Americans are afraid that Canada let in terrorists and they would come into USA and put bombs and things like that. Canada is afraid, and it's a reality of the cigarette contraband, drugs because it's a hole in the border. And this is a very important thing because, of course, the Mohawk, they want to have their freedom, their own government. But for the white government, let's say like that, it's a problem. And I believe really that if USA one day invade Canada, it would be because of Akwesasne. That's what I really believe, because they will want to take control of the danger. Anyway, but what I wanted to say like that, with that, is that English Canada is controlling Quebec, try to divide to conquer by putting the Mohawks against the Québécois, and we had it during the Oka crisis. Something very interesting, the only moment when English Canada gave the control of the army to the Quebec government was during the Oka crisis, because they wanted Québécois to kill the Mohawks and the Mohawks to kill Québécois, to create a division. This is divide to conquer. They never gave us the control over the army except then. This is the proof of what I'm saying. And just before I pass you the microphone, the Meech Lake Accord, the Charlottetown Accord, the 1995 referendum was exactly when we were fighting in Oka. Then it's related. They were using it to create division, to create fear, to create hatred between the groups. It's divide to conquer.
And who did they use? If you're looking at the non-native world, Quebec, Ontario, the rest of the provinces, who did they use in that Meech Lake Accord to divide the non-native people? They used a native person. Now ask yourself, did that native person have any business there?
You're talking Fontaine with the feather?
No, the Meech Lake.
Okay.
I forget the guy's name.
It was Fontaine from Manitoba.
Not Phil Fontaine. No.
Okay,
no.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Phil Fontaine is one of the, I think he's the second or third Grand Poobah of the AFN appointed.
Okay, I said nothing. I made a mistake.
Anyways, this guy, whatever his name was, they put a native person there to divide the non-native people. That guy had no business being there. What business do I have in the affairs of your house? I have no business in the affairs of your house. Now, this is what the British Crown wants to do through imposing democracy. Say, yeah, get everybody in this mixing bowl society, and put the native people in there. And once the native people are in there, then Canada becomes legitimate. All of the genocide over the past 500 years is legitimized by all the fools, the native people, who are participating in, first, the elective band council systems, and then who participate in the Assembly of First Nations, and then who participate and seek representation in Canada. These are sellout traitors to our people, and these are the people that actually are dangerous for the Quebecois, because you are looking at what you think is a native, and you would expect a certain behavior from a native. But what you get from the Assembly of First Nations or any elected band council is the exact opposite behavior from what you would expect there to be from native people. So when we go in to examine what happened during the summer of 1990, it is not true what the people's perception is of what took place there. This was an entire manipulation, started first going back as early as 1967 in the community of Kahnawake, the Mohawk community of Kahnawake. This is my community, and this is what I watched happen to my community. In the 1960s, the community was still one. There was the elected band council system that was kind of there. They had no power. They were just there administering funds. In the beginning, in the 60s, what they were called was, they were for administering funds for recreation. It was called the MRA. It was the Mohawk Recreation Agency. That's what that was. So all they were was administering funds. In the 60s, the Canadian government seeing that the Native movement was building up. We're getting our identity back. As you know, on the state side, the American Indian movement, violence. They took that American Indian movement and brought it here into Kahnawake in the summer of 1973. Because what happened in the summer of 1973 was a result of the espionage of the elected band council system. The elected band council system, first off, they are not native people. These are not Mohawk people. You can look at the elected band council system and think that they are native, but they are not Mohawks. So the elected band council system created a situation in Kahnawake back in the 60s. What they were doing to make money, they were renting lands out, leasing lands out to non-native people. Mm-hmm. And then the Mohawks in the village all of a sudden were saying, hey, what's all these non-native people doing here? They started evicting the non-native people. And the band council got stuck in the middle because the band council sold permits for them to be in Kahnawake. So the band council, what they did was they came over to the Longhouse. I was born and raised in the Longhouse. I remember the person, his last name was a Goodleaf, who came into the Longhouse and said, the band council, we need help to evict, to get all these white people out of here, they said. And so all the young people in the Longhouse said, yeah, let's get the white people out of here. But the chiefs and clan mothers said, no, we are not to get involved with the elected band council. This is where...
Do you realize that when you say to kick out white people from the reservation, what would happen if Quebecers were to say, for example, let's kick out the blacks out of Quebec? It's racism. It should not even be said, something like that. It's very shocking.
Here, it's on a different level, though. I mean, think of this. If I went to France, and I go and impose my family in France, if I start genociding in France, and then the French people said, hey, let's get the Mohawks out of here, they would be completely justified. Because
but in the modern society, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. If you say, let's kick the Jews out of Quebec, I mean, this is racism.
Okay, you're talking about
political correctness. It cannot be acceptable
correctness.
For what happened in the past. As I said, we have to respect each other, respect each other's rights, respect each community's right, but we cannot accept something like that. It's philosophically, morally wrong.
But at the same time, let's not have our humanity compromised by political correctness. Political correctness is creating the chaos in this world today.
Listen, political correctness is a criminal ideology.
Exactly.
It started nice. Respect for everybody equal. Today, it's racism which hides behind anti-racism. You can see that with the Trump thing in USA. You hear black people saying, white people are all bad. We have to let them die. I mean, this is unbelievable. It degenerated. It became a criminal ideology, which is promoting the opposite of what it was at first.
Well, it's the murderer, basically the main genocider, Britain. It is them saying anybody else commits genocide, you're wrong. So it's only good for them, but anybody else is a criminal. So they'll say this is where political correctness comes from. It comes from a murderer. When you are accusing a murderer, the murderer says, "Hey, come on, don't." What's that phrase in religion? Let he who is free of sin cast the first stone.
That's it.
That
Jesus Christ said that.
Then what it means is that the sins just keep piling up, and nobody ever addresses these things.
By the way, there is a reaction from the population. I'd like to say about the Oka crisis, because it's very fundamental. There was a conflict, and it dated since the beginning of the colony, in the land ownership concept of both nations. The Mohawk and all the natives, they don't understand that you can sell land where you live. They had territory. You had Mohawk territory, Huron territory, but they don't understand the idea of selling. The idea of selling land, it's from a farmer society, Europe. And you need you put a fence because it's where you produce the food to feed your children. Then you can sell the land. Then when the whites came here, Europeans, they wanted to buy lands, and the people in Manhattan, they never understood that what they were doing, they were selling the land forever. And in Oka, what happened in Oka is that the Mohawk had rights over the Oka Golf Club, but they had papers saying that it was theirs. Then it was two morality, two philosophies. Shocking. And we didn't kill a man, and we didn't destroy houses for a 9-hole golf. It was for values, and it has to be negotiated. Nobody is going nowhere, as I said. We have to negotiate and avoiding wars and killing people. And that's what I wanted to say. And the document they had came from very far away. The Sulpiciens, in the 17th, 18th century. And the Mohawk had, we have to discuss, when did the Mohawk came to Oka? 18th century or 15th century? We're not sure. You see, there is a problem of ownership, understanding of the land. It was different.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the Oka event. It's going to take a little bit of time to put down this chronology for you. But one of the things that you said earlier about it was the first time that Canada gave Quebec the power over the Canadian military. It's not true. It's not true at all.
When?
The Canadian military was not here for what you think. The only way you would know is if you were on the ground and seen the behavior of the Canadian military. What the Canadian military was here for was they were here to make sure that nothing happened. They were here to protect the Mohawks. You may not believe that. The people may not believe that. But when the Canadian Army came in...
Are you talking about Oka?
Yeah, the summer of 90.
By the way, in Oka, Quebec government were giving orders to the army.
That's what they think. That's what they think. Don't forget, who is the army? That belongs to that woman they call the Queen.
Of course.
You think she's going to give control?
The Canadian Army.
You think she's going to give control over her army to Quebec?
No,
Quebec,
it was only the group around Oka.
Quebec was being manipulated,
of course,
as was the Mohawks. And when you consider at that time, don't forget that was the United States invasion of Iraq. Not a war in Iraq, it was the invasion.
It's true.
And at that time, Canada had only 4,000 troops in Iraq. But here, they had 5,000 troops stationed. So just to bring things into perspective. What?
By the way, they didn't give, just before we start again, they didn't give the control of all the army in Quebec to Quebec government. The Quebec government, it was Chia and Bourassa, they were controlling the group and they were French Québécois, French-speaking. That's the Vendu, the 22nd Regiment, and only that group against the Mohawk. It's divide to conquer. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, as far as the army, when they were here, they were not here utilized against the Mohawk people. Even though you know that they had sent in their Hercules helicopters to land on the island in Kahnawake. Now, afterwards, a lot of people have gone to the powwow in Kahnawake. It's on the island. The reason why the powwow is held in Kahnawake every year is because the army helicopters came and landed on that island in the summer of 90. And what happened was that all the people from the village just walked over there because the island is like right next to the village area in Kahnawake. The people just walked over there, drove over there, and they confronted the army. And you could see there's footage today still around of the people fighting the army. There was one guy in particular, he is passed now. His name was the late Danny Phillips. This guy had an army guy in their full army regalia, you know, had him by the throat with his left hand, and he was punching him with his right hand. There is videos of other guys pushing an army guy off of the bridge. He fell off the bridge like about 10 feet, landed on the rocks. Clearly, all the videos of what was happening, there was no army guy that even attempted to defend himself. They were not there as the aggressive force that they were there portraying. It was a false threat. But it was a false threat in unison to push another thing to happen. Now, I'll get to that other thing in a few minutes, but I'll set the stage to this. I already identified that earlier, that where we were is that the band council had approached the Longhouse in Kahnawake in 1973 to evict the non-native people, the white people, to kick them out of Kahnawake. And as you said, that is a racist thing. The Longhouse, the original peoples, said no to the band council. No, we were not going to assist them in this because we knew that the band council was selling permits to the white people to come and live in Kahnawake. So the band council was manipulating the people. And when they came to the Longhouse and they knew that they would get a no from the chiefs and clan mothers, but the young people, because at the time in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a resurgence of native pride, native identity. And yes, there's white people on a reserve. Let's get them the hell out of here. Let's kick them out. So the band council preyed on the young people, on the youth. And this is where, in 1973, there was a sleeper cell within the Longhouse, within the original peoples. His name was Louis Hall. He created the illegal mafia called the Warrior Society. And the Warrior Society is what rose to power through the 80s, through what you identified, what's happened in Akwesasne, the contraband, the illegal cigarette trade. It did not happen in Akwesasne. That is not true.
Where did they come from?
It was never true. The fact is, as through the court cases of the big tobacco companies here, you find out the truth, that the cigarettes that left Imperial Tobacco, that left the tobacco companies here in Montreal, that was supposed to go over the border because they were marked as tax-free cigarettes, they never went close to the border. They drove right from here in Montreal right to Kahnawake. It is a lie that Akwesasne was utilized as that contraband to get you to this point today, where you would state that it's like a common belief in the non-native that Akwesasne is the source of contraband in Canada.
Yeah, but the thing is, it remains a hole in the border.
But it's not. You know where the hole in the border is?
Where?
Where the borders are. That's where the hole in the border is.
Well, I agree that the borders are crazy in North America. I made videos on that. But my point is, you're right that Quebecers didn't want the army to kill people, unless they shoot first, of course, because we had a death. And I can tell you that people remember that guy. But we don't want, Quebecers are really peaceful. They use referendum, they are against bombing Arabs in their homeland. They were against destroying French-speaking Manitoba. We always That's our nature. We're like that.
But
We're not cowards. We're only peaceful.
But there
And-
is something that makes the Quebecois not peaceful. And what that is the system that they are linked to. So inadvertently...
Divide to conquer. That's
divide
what
to
I
conquer,
said.
yes.
But as I say, Quebecers don't want that sort of violence. But during the Oka crisis, you probably remember when a group of women and children, they tried to get out of the with cars.
Yeah.
And people, a mob, we say a mob, they threw stone on them because you had that general feeling in Quebec that it had to end up peacefully. But you always have, when you are 7 million, you have people with crazy people, and they get angry. And what they saw on the news, it was the enemy, the warriors. Warriors
Exactly.
means warriors.
My enemy too, warriors.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's divide to conquer. You create a confrontation, one death, and they were threatening to blow up the Mercier Bridge. People need the Mercier Bridge. We didn't build it for fun. They destroyed houses in Oka. I mean, people were not, they were just out because there was, and they came back and the house was destroyed. And well,
That's because
that
it was
created-
the warrior society.
yeah,
Corruption,
but that
mafia.
created an opposition between both people, and it's divide to conquer. And that's something very important. And they created the hatred between the two groups, which should not happen. And because of the language barrier, it has never been breached, that wall. Anyway,
This thing that you identified about when they left through the Mercier Bridge and the non-native people went there and stoned the cars, I'll say something to you. That today, every Quebecois has a perception of Mohawk, where I do not have a perception of Quebecois that is a manipulated perception. I will state to you that yes, hatred came out of that event when a few Mohawks tried going out the Mercier Bridge, and a few non-natives were there shooting rocks. That was not the Quebecois. You know who was there shooting rocks? That was SQ and RCMP. These were insurgents. These were people, just like I'll remind you of something. Remember when the G7 was meeting in Montebello, maybe about 8 years ago, something like
Yeah.
that, 8 or 9 years ago, and there was people went there to protest, and there was violence that erupted, and they found out that the people who started the violence was RCMP. They were insurgents in plain clothes. Now, when we know and understand that this so-called Oka crisis is a manipulation right from the top down.
I agree.
This comes from the British Crown. Now, again, to get back on track where I was earlier, is that once the Warrior Society had come into power through the Band Council, they were created by the Band Council. The non-native society believes that the Warrior Society is the traditional people, is the Longhouse people. It's not true. They're mafia. They're people who want money. And as such, that clashes with Mohawk law. So that tells you that the Warrior Society are not Mohawks. They never have been. Never. So the only reason why you see them is because the British Crown's puppets of the elected Band Council system created them to come into a situation that the Band Council created, again, of that selling permits to non-natives to live there. Okay, then they say, let's get them out. They create the Warrior Society to kick them out. What happened in 1973 when the Warrior Society went around and kicked them out? There was a couple of guys who were right at the front, who are right at the front right up until to this day.
Yeah.
One guy's name is Paul Delarone. Another guy's name is Arthur Montour. They were at the head of the procession of people going through Kahnawake to evict the non-native people. And they came to this one man's house, an old man living on this place where they call Blind Ladies Hill in Kahnawake, just not far down the street from where I live. They went to this man's house. He was an old Frenchman living there by himself. No Mohawk would go and ask this guy to leave. Nobody would do that. But the corruption of the elected Band Council carrying out the espionage on behalf of the British Crown created the Warrior Society to go kick this guy out. And when they did, this Paul Delarone and Arthur Montour standing right at the front talking to him, this guy came out on his porch. I seen him. He had a shotgun in one hand, and he had a paper in the other hand. And he says, I'm not leaving. I have the right to stay here.
That's
he
his
had the
land.
permit.
That's land. Yeah, that's
But something happened. That old man, he had a heart attack right there and dropped dead on his porch. This is the birth of the warrior society. They had to kill. Now, they didn't take a gun and shoot that guy or stab him or fight him to death. No, but they killed him through their actions. This is, like I said, democracy is always has a violent birth, because the warrior society is democracy. It is not Mohawk. It is not anything to do with native identity. So when the summer of 1990 came around, they knew that they would push an issue that all the people, all Mohawk people would stand behind. Not just Mohawk people, as you know.
when you have a
people.
war, whatever the war, people flock to their group because they have a real good reason to fight. Both sides. And both sides believe that they have God on their side, they pray the same God. The thing is, the Mohawk had a point, as I said, in Oka, because it was a burial ground in the past. We were not sure. They were sure, but we were not sure. And we, people who lived there, the owner of the golf course, he said, it's my land, I bought it. And he could go back till the 18th century, showing that it was his land, the Sulpicien and all that. Then you have a good, genuine reason to have a confrontation. On top of that, you have divide to conquer. The winner is Ottawa. They want to create shock, to create hatred, and it was before the referendum, Charlottetown Accord. It was, that thing, and they wanted to manipulate. And the Band Council are a creation of Ottawa. The Mohawk came from that, not the Mohawk, the Warrior Society, all that. Then it's a creation, it's divide to conquer. When you have a war, you have a reason for the war, and you have a pretext for the war. The reason was that there was a genuine problem with the land ownership. The pretext, it became the pretext. People believed that they had the right, both sides, and the pretext was when the Sûreté du Québec tried to kick out the Mohawks from the Pinède, where they were. Then they killed a man, and then it started. But what the army...
What man got killed?
The soldier, the
Corporal LeMay,
LeMay, Corporal LeMay.
Okay, that was his own people that
they
killed
called
him.
him.
That's the SQ that killed him.
Well,
he was shot in the back of the head, that guy, in the back. He wasn't shot in the front.
Well, why? Okay, we could discuss about it, but what I know is at the end of the confrontation, because Quebecers didn't want the violence, then what they did, they just concentrated the warriors inside a very short area. They put a loudspeaker, lights to impede them to sleep, and they were they let food coming in, but they wanted them to give away, and they gave up when they cut the cigarettes and the booze, because they needed cigarettes. Then I can't. Then they destroyed the weapons. Then when you say it's not Mohawk weapons who killed LeMay, I'm not that sure. Why did they destroy the weapon?
Well, they had weapons, that's a fact. But
they destroyed it. They burned it.
The other fact is that on the morning that Corporal LeMay was killed, this was an initiative from the SQ to storm them.
That's true.
Storm them.
That's true.
They stormed them as a military force,
Wait
not
a minute.
as a police force.
As I said, they had law on their white law on their side. They had a judge injunction, kick them out of there. As I said, you have both sides have the right on their side. Every side believe they are right, but they had a judge injunction, and the Sûreté du Québec went there. And the guy who got killed, he was his nickname was Rambo. He was a very aggressive guy. Then he entered the.
Oh, you're talking about the native guy?
The guy who got killed.
The native guy.
He was attacking, and you can hear on the video, ta 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 ta, and bing, and then you hear Mohawk said, "I got one," and we can hear that. And anyway, but that's a stupid confrontation. Again, divide to conquer, and we have to pass through that thing, and. Well, nobody's going nowhere. We have to get the solution.
There is
we have to get the solution.
There is a story that Quebec does not know about Corporal LeMay. What was happening before Corporal LeMay was killed was that he was bringing out information about what was happening there. People need to find out the information from his sister, because his sister wrote a book about him and she went around Quebec, going around telling the people about what really happened with her brother. And the fact is that he was shot in the back while they were storming. Now think of this. As you're storming, you're running towards something. If you're going to get shot in the back while you're running towards something, towards your enemy, you're going to get shot in the front if you're going to get shot by your enemy. The only way you're going to get shot in the back is by your own.
I never heard that he was shot in the back, by the way.
But a few other things, very important information that people don't know about the summer of 1990. You have an image, everybody has an image of Mohawks during the summer of 1990, and that is the image of Lasagna, the warrior, standing face to face with the Canadian soldier.
By the way, do you know what is the name of Lasagna?
Yeah, Lasagna was one of my best friends.
Larocque.
Larocque.
Larocque, that's his name. That's what I read.
Who?
Larocque.
Larocque.
Yeah, Lasagna, his name was Larocque.
No.
It was a French métis from Saskatchewan. I'm wrong? Okay, that's what I read.
No. Lasagna, I'll tell you a story about how Lasagna got there. Lasagna was a good friend of mine. We were ironworking in New York City. My father was the pusher. That's what you call the boss on the job, on ironworker. On an ironworking job. My father was the pusher. We're working. We go back every Sunday. We come back here on Fridays. We spend the weekend. We go back to New York on Sunday night.
Okay.
Lasagna and I were partners. We were working on the same job. Now, he comes to our place on a Sunday. He comes to talk to my father because my father's the boss. So he tells my father that he can't. He doesn't think he's going to make it to work this week because his mother, Lasagna's mother, Lasagna's name was Ronald Cross. Ronald Cross. He is the nephew of my uncle.
Okay.
So I know who he is and I know what his name is. So
okay, then I was wrong.
Lasagna's name was Ronald Cross.
Okay,
anyways, Lasagna comes and tells us his mother called him. His mother lived in Ganasadage along with his younger brothers. His mother calls him and says his younger brother is inside where all the warrior society was held up, and she wants him out of there. So Lasagna tells us that he's going in to get his brother. My father and I warn him, and there was another person present who can verify this. His name is Slim Markery. He was working with us also.
Okay.
So Lasagna says he's got to go in and get his brother. We warn him, don't do that. You don't know what you're going into. Lasagna goes in to get his brother. His brother comes out. The army locks them in. Lasagna was there completely by chance, by fluke.
But he was not from Kahnawake or Akwesasne. He was from New York State, or...
Well, his mother is...
That's what you said.
She was Italian. His mother was Italian. Yeah. His father was from Kahnawake, was a brother of my uncle, married to my aunt. His father died, I think it was in the 70s, he died in a boating accident. So he grew up in Manhattan. He grew up mostly with his Italian family.
Okay.
So, but he was a very rough guy. You know, he wouldn't stand for any kind of crap from anybody. So when he ended up in there, completely by fluke, it's just by chance that he ended there, but they push him to the front because they know he does not stand for any shit from anybody, this guy.
Okay.
And this guy, I've seen him, you know, he went up in Manhattan, he went up against dozens of Manhattan police. You know, he didn't take no shit from nobody. So they pushed him up to the front, and he was a small guy too. He was like, he only came up to about my chin, but he was a firecracker. Okay. Anyways, so he's in there completely by chance. They push him to the front, and the world thinks that Lasagna represents the Mohawk people through the warrior society. Lasagna...
Well, that's because he became famous with that confrontation between the both.
But
still today, if you look at books about the Oka crisis, the image you see is the French-Canadian soldier in front of Lasagna.
But Lasagna was against the warrior society because what was happening prior to 1990, right up to 1990, Lasagna was one of my best friends. We were partners for, I'd say, about 4 or 5 years. Partners, traveling and working and together all the time. And in Kahnawake, to be my friend through the mid-'80s, no one would be my friend because my family was the only family that stood against the Warrior Society. The Warrior Society was the elected band council system, meaning all of Kahnawake was pursuing what you identified as the illegal cigarette trade, the gun trade, the alcohol trade, all the stuff that they have now legally through the band council. They now have gaming. When the people of Kahnawake said no to it. But it is the Warrior Society that started it through bringing in the Super Bingo. But anyways, when they brought in the Super Bingo and the other things, my family was the only ones standing up against them. They came by our house twice, shot our house up with machine guns in the middle of the night at 5 o'clock in the morning. Sprayed my house with machine gun fire. AK-47, 9mm, 12-gauge shotgun. 3 different types they fired out of the car when they passed by our house at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Then it's true that the mafia plays a role in Kahnawake.
The mafia controls Kahnawake because the band council is the mafia, and the band council is the bureaucracy that is creating the laws that legitimizes mafia.
The topics we discuss may seem very controversial. These are subjects that some people would avoid to address in everyday life. We are committed to bringing out the truth. If you have any relevant questions, you can send them to us on our Facebook page or via email to marie-claude.lacroix@yahoo.com. We will discuss with pleasure during future shows or during our live Facebook Live every Wednesday on Facebook. We accept interview and we are available for online lessons for any group interested in learning more about Two Voice Wampum. May the great peace be with you.
For thousands of years, the Kanien'kehá:ka, Mohawk, have lived under the great law of peace within the St. Lawrence Valley.
Pendant des milliers d'années, les Kanien'kehá:ka, les Mohawks, ont habité en paix dans la vallée du Saint-Laurent.
500 years ago, we encountered a new people
Et il y a 500 ans, on a rencontré un nouveau peuple
that changed the relationship between the people and the land.
qui a changé les relations entre les gens et avec la terre.
From the plains of Abraham
Des plaines d'Abraham
to the Oka crisis of 1990,
jusqu'à la crise d'Oka de 1990,
to the modern-day relationship between the Quebecois and the Kanien'kehá:ka.
jusqu'à l'ère moderne de la relation entre les Québécois et les Kanien'kehá:ka.
We will examine the things that have divided us,
On va examiner les choses qui nous ont divisés
the things that we have in common,
et les choses qu'on a en commun.
our historical relationship,
Notre relation historique
and where we will go together in the future.
et où qu'on s'en va ensemble dans le futur.
Join us in our journey back to our integrity.
Joignez-vous à nous dans notre retour à notre intégrité.